Now, this past weekend marked the closing of the African Growth and Opportunity Act meeting in order to secure the extension of trade agreement, which ends in 2025. The road to hosting the AGOA Forum in South Africa has occasionally proven difficult. However, U.S. President Joe Biden stated last week in a statement that he is in favor of the renewal. Ebrahim Patel, the Minister of Trade and Industry, argues that the Act has to be revised to take African challenges into account. And of course, Gideon Chitanga, a research associate at the African Center for Study of the United States at Wits University, joins me now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And of course, let's start off with your analysis. What are the major opportunities that AGOA presents for African economies? Now, from your perspective, what specific industries or sectors in Africa have the greatest potential to benefit from AGOA, and also why is that?
So I think that since the inception of AGOA, African economies have gone into a lot of transition. In my view, agriculture is the most dominant means of production in so many African countries, and agriculture is very diverse. So allowing AGOA participants to export agricultural products, of course, without undermining their capacity for self-sustenance, is very crucial. The other sector is mining, and particularly new minerals that are quite critical for new technologies. You can think of minerals that are used for computers and cell phones. You think of lithium, one of the major. Africa is probably number 2 globally in terms of availability of such minerals and others. So recreating economic relations which can benefit African countries, the direct producers of such minerals as well as the US would be crucial. The new technologies are providing a new area that is quite critical in stimulating economic growth in African countries, and more so because these new technologies, there's a very broad economic impact beyond particular sectors. In other words, they cut across public sector,
all right,
business, and the citizen participation, if you like, civic activities. And I think that rebooting economic partnerships around new technologies, their services, and particularly helping Africa to venture into the production of homegrown new technologies would make a major impact in transforming the African economies and in a very inclusive and participatory way.
Now, talking about, of course, potential barriers also, what are some of them? And of course, let's talk about the constraints that African countries have faced in taking full advantage of AGOA. How can they be addressed?
There are really two things. AGOA is primarily a U.S. framework, critically framed around U.S. economic and political interests. And because of that, I think that the conditions of African countries, particularly member countries, are not to be properly looked at in terms of what their immediate interests are, economic interests, or balancing their immediate economic interests with forging solid relations with the US. A lot of African countries are going through difficult transitions in terms of their governance, creating stable political institutions, and fostering even stable domestic economic relations, balancing between what we can call capital interest, whether it's capital which is external capital or domestic capital, and the general interest of the public. I think that all African countries need to be looking at creating strong governance institutions, politically, economically, socially.